was asked through a phone call I received from Ken Smith. I was actually standing in the main street of Grantham really in the early days, and we were putting up some temporary buildings, and Ken gave me a call and said, are you sitting down? The Premier would like you to be the CEO of a reconstruction authority that we're looking at setting up. So it was pretty impactful, and it really hit home standing in the main street of Grantham. My initial reactions after being asked to be CEO was only 2/3 of the state at that time had been affected, but it was still an overwhelming task. There was more than $6 billion worth of work from Rockhampton south. There had been flooding out in Western Queensland, and then the inland tsunami, and then Brisbane had the flood in the Brisbane Valley. So it was an enormous task, and it was almost overwhelming. But at that same time, as we were moving forward, we had Cyclone Yasi arrive within a couple of weeks, so the whole state became impacted. To think about how we were going to set up an authority was just really having to think outside the box. This had never been done before. It was an unprecedented situation. And it was really a case of just looking at it on its merits and working out, well, how do we get the best out of local government, state government, federal government, but then also work with private partners and get that leveraged outcome. And I guess tying in with experience I'd had with major project delivery, but also leveraging off existing contractual arrangements that were in place. So it was a case of trying to work out, well, how do we bring it together, get the collaboration that was needed, and then set up an entity. So we had to set up an act, a piece of legislation, to allow us to do what we needed to do. That went through Parliament in only 4 days, as I recall. The need to get things done so quickly, because the task was enormous, but we had a limited time frame to get the work done. The federal funding arrangements under NDRRA at the time had a limit of 2 years. Now, as it was, they extended for the 2010-11 floods to be 3 years, but still meant we were time limited to get in the order of $300 million worth of work done every month. So it started out as around about $6 billion, and then when Yasi came, it was well over $7 billion worth of work. And if you think about trying to achieve that level of work in the time frame required under NDRRA, it required us to really get on with the job. The scale was enormous, the whole state was impacted, and trying to get people to do that type of work in normal times was challenging, but in an environment where they'd just been hit by a natural disaster was just a monumental task. To achieve success for the QRA, what was really important was to build trust and build relationships across all levels of government and with the communities. So people didn't see us coming in and taking over and bullying them into a particular outcome. It was really more about how do we work with them to achieve the outcomes that they need to achieve, but to support them. We had everything from remote Indigenous communities to large city councils such as Brisbane. And so we had this really diverse level of support that was going to be required to get this job done. So early on it was about gaining that confidence and working closely with those agencies. So we actually had secondment from every government agency. So I think at the time there were 13 different government agencies that had secondees to us. And I'd never experienced before a situation where the whole of the public service worked so cooperatively together, and the answer to every question was yes. I would speak to a Director General and ask them for assistance and ask them for a particular staff member, and the answer was always yes. And that really helped us get on with the job. In addition to the Queensland Government people, we had people from all the military services plus the police, and the police were really important in that because they had good contacts on the ground, good relationships into their own areas. Emergency services, Queensland were involved as well. So there was a real mix of people, and it was an amazing feeling to see all of those skills and capabilities come together. And at one stage we had people on secondment from the World Bank, and they participated, helped us out, and then did a review, and they classified what we were doing as world class. In the first 12 months, some of our key achievements was seeing the first people move into Grantham when we moved the town up the hill. We set up the DARM system, so the rapid damage assessment arrangements, which is still carrying through today. We looked into how do we build things back better, and then looked at the program management arrangements so that we could get improved systems all the way through. But probably one of the key things was just getting that trust of the organisation, a new organisation getting trust right across the whole board. And that allowed us to achieve those outcomes that we were able to achieve. So the way we were able to get things done in Grantham was working very closely with the local government, but our legislation, our Act, allowed us to do some pretty significant things. The process that allowed us to go through developing a new planning scheme took us around about 3 months. And to give you perspective, something like that would normally take about 3 years. So that level of support enabled by the legislation and the good cooperation of the local government was quite amazing and allowed us to achieve that ambition, which was to get people back into their homes 1 year after the event. So we knew that there was going to be a lot of focus in the 12-month anniversary, and we set ourselves this ambitious goal of to get people back into their homes by Christmas. So really January was when the event happened, and by November the first people were moving in, and there were more people moving in by Christmas. It was an incredible achievement and really well received by the community. So the NDRA policy had been around for some time, and you could see that really there was some things that needed to change. So some key areas we challenged was in relation to betterment and day labour, and also the use of council plant and equipment. And these were ones that we saw an opportunity to improve the outcome for the longer term, but also set up the scene where rapid response could happen in the future. I see betterment as one of the proud achievements. Being able to see such a shift in policy that affected both federal, state and local government, it's a pretty rare opportunity to do, and to see it be sustainable and to continue to deliver the outcomes that we wanted it to achieve is a really good thing to see. There were some really significant achievements early on that I'm really proud of. So the Brisbane River Walkway is one, the ferry terminals in Brisbane as well, the Toowoomba flood mitigations, rebuilding Cardwell, putting the rock wall there which will protect it for a long time into the future. And then a lot of the works along the highway were really significant in keeping the highway open into the long term. The RLO network came from a meeting up in North Queensland where, in dialogue with the people up there, they said it would be wonderful to have their own person, and that sort of set the scene for us to put our network right across the whole state. The intent of the RLO network was to give councils someone who would understand their individual circumstances and really give them bespoke assistance. What I've been able to take from QRA to apply to the current situation across River Rail is the notion of a really large program of activities across a whole bunch of different areas, and being able to mobilise large teams and get that delivery happening. The Reconstruction Authority of today still holds that core of what we set up in the first place. But it's great to see it evolve into one which has picked up things like resilience, and carrying that through, and the agility of the organisation to adapt to the new environment is really fantastic, and I'm really proud of it.